Hey there, e-commerce Fastlane listeners. I want to take a quick moment and give a shout out to an amazing sponsor, Absolute Web. Now, if you're looking for a powerhouse team to take your Shopify store to the next level, then look no further. Absolute Web is a full-service design and e-commerce development agency. They've been pushing the boundaries of what's possible on Shopify for over 2 decades. Now, whether you need a highly customized design that truly sets your brand apart, a complex integration to kind of streamline your operations, or even a complete site implementation from the ground up, Absolute Web has got you covered. Now, they have an in-house team of UI and UX designers. They have architects. They really are the go-to all-in-one solution for e-commerce brands that really want results and they want them now. And get this, if you're currently on another platform and you're considering to make the switch to Shopify, the experts at Absolute Web have deep experience in migrations too. They'll make the process smooth and painless, and you can start reaping all the benefits of being on Shopify. So if you're ready to build, optimize, or even scale a high-converting e-commerce storefront, head on over to absoluteweb.com and you can learn more about their extensive technical and creative e-commerce services. That's absoluteweb.com. And now back to the show.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Hutt. Thanks so much for tuning in today. There's so many podcasts out there to choose from, and I massively appreciate the fact that you're taking time and listening to today's episode. One thing I'm really excited to talk about today is our guest. AI has been on everybody's radar. There's a lot of brands that are a little bit shy about, should I implement AI? What sort of tools can I use that can either improve lots of efficiencies in a business? Some people are using AI maybe to have a self-serve model for their customer service. What's my tracking number and these kind of basic kind of things. And then if you need a live agent, we can transfer you over. People kind of like that, these sorts of services. But today's guest, Udayan Bose, he is the CEO and founder of a company called NetElixir. They are a very successful, they're an independent kind of, I'd call them an AI-first digital agency. I did a tiny bit of research before recording today, and they're actually celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. So they're definitely an OG in the digital marketing space. One thing about Udayan and his team, what they've created, and I'm going to learn more from him, but there's a thing called this Elixir Insights, and it's basically a homegrown, from what I understand, an AI machine learning module that really is there to help with search and paid social advertising, really with the goal of helping Shopify brands to maybe compete in the margin kind of strapped world. It's tough right now. And one thing I'm finding right now with Google's PMax and with Meta's Advantage Plus and stuff, they're removing, as we all know, they're removing a lot of these metrics and a lot of the controls that used to be there to enhance kind of ad performance. And I think that's where NetElixir's kind of this Elixir Insights, this AI and this rapid experimentation comes into play. So we're going to learn a lot about this today. So hi, Udayan. Welcome to E-commerce Fastlane.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me on this podcast. I am a huge fan of this podcast. Hello, everyone.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I'm really excited the fact that you are an OG in this space and you have definitely put your flag in the sand as saying, you know what, we're going to iterate and we're going to create both an agency and a software solution that's AI powered that really is here to predict and win. I would call them like high value customers. And I think it's incredible kind of what you're working on. And that's why I wanted to have you on today. I want to share this opportunity with a lot of my listeners. They're like, hey, we're sick of the blended ROAS problem. We're sick of the cookie apocalypse and all these third-party pixels and all these things. There's so many things that are going away with iOS updates. Google's got their challenges too. And so this is what's unique about your platform is you really, on a granular level, are really here to help brands be much more efficient with their paid advertising. I think it's really, really exciting. So let's talk a little bit about your backstory. Like, where did NetElixir come from? Like, because you've been 20 years in this business. So I'm curious as kind of the backstory leading up to launching NetElixir. And then we're going to pivot a bit into the Elixir tool.
Absolutely, Steve. So my story in the digital world goes way back, Steve. I know I'm significantly dating myself, but I joined a couple of my engineering schoolmates, and I was still in India at that point in time. And they had started this online gaming company. So online poker, online casino, and so on. And they sort of pulled me in to start an online bingo business. Now, this was in 2001, 2002. So it was very early days of the internet and so on. And I didn't know, honestly speaking, anything about bingo. And my brush with online, honestly speaking, was very limited. But I think those were the days which were so amazing because anything and everything is possible and everything was possible at that point in time when it came to the internet world.
Right.
And we literally built this, Steve, believe it or not, to be the world's largest online gaming company. It was called Party Gaming, and I started Party Bingo. And then there is a Party Poker, which was our flagship brand in online poker. And I had moved on. I had moved on from the company in December 2003 to start NetElixir in 2004. But the company eventually in 2005 actually did an IPO of 10 billion pound sterling on the London Stock Exchange. So we were actually that year bigger than Google and British Airways combined. So I can say that I was in the initial parts of that company, played a pretty key role in founding one of their business lines, the Bingo business line. So that was the start, the starting point, an exciting one, an exciting welcome to the internet and the e-commerce world.
Right.
I mean, that to an extent that the entire idea of NetElixir started then. And it was fundamentally based on three core principles. One, I mean, all of them to an extent were derived from my experience at Party Gaming. The first one was we were doing a fair amount of search marketing. Those were the days when gambling ads were still accepted in Google, or Overture was the big one. I mean, if you remember.
Overture, I do.
Overture, which was just acquired then by Yahoo and so on. So we were actually one of the largest spenders effectively there. That gave me a first-hand experience of running a very large paid search, or as it was called, pay-per-click on those pay-per-click advertising campaign then. The second one was we wanted to take a customer-first approach because I had an agency somehow. I think I felt that there was an opportunity for the agency to spend more time with me to learn my business rather than just apply a one-size-fit-all sort of a solution. So our second principle was, can we really take a customer-first approach and make it really very customer-centric and rather than a one-type-fit-all, which really helps and understand the business. And the third component is we would extremely, almost like to the point of being fanatically analytical about search marketing. And back then it was very possible to track each and every click, impressions to the conversion. And we had really built, and I had filed for a patent once I started NetElixir in 2004 Jan, which was called a new system and method in search marketing. And this international patent, I had proposed a different way of doing search marketing altogether, which was very predictable as such. So it was just a combination of analytical approach, a very customer-first approach, and the third is a first-hand experience in terms of running a very large campaign. We were actually one of the world's largest three Google ads and Overture ad spenders back then. So all of these three combined and started along with my wife, literally from our living room. We were still back in India at that point in time in a city called Hyderabad. We started NetElixir on 26th of Jan 2004. Yeah, 20 years back. Wow.
That's an incredible story. And you know what? It's consistency over time. You know, it's just putting in the work with the original kind of businesses that you were involved in and being Party Bingo and the whole party gaming group. And just, it's so interesting. And it's nice that you just continued on and saying, what did I learn from those businesses? And they continued on and through, public IPOs and kind of did their thing. And you saw a need in the market. And I can see the benefits of kind of having a digital agency, knowing that you were involved with and knew a lot of the numbers, but what was happening in, paid social back in the day. It continues today. Obviously with e-commerce, it's even more competitive. And then mix in Amazon into that mix. It's and Shopify's got 4.5 million brands now that are running, and probably 20 to 25,000 plus brands are on Shopify Plus. It's such an interesting market. I think a lot of brands though are, as I mentioned at the top of the show, they're feeling that margin squeeze right now. They really feel it's great to have product market fit, but it's also, you're a little bit forced into the rules that Google and Meta and even TikTok to a certain degree, what they're willing to give back, or it's a little bit of a black box, to be quite honest with you. It's kind of money in, and they with PMax, for example, with Google, it's just like it's kind of a black box, and you have to kind of trust the fact that they're going to find you the next best customer as cheaply as possible. But they are a for-profit company, and I don't believe they're necessarily working in the client's best interests. And so I'd love to have your feedback about the black box going on with Google and Meta, but then how does that contrast to kind of what you're building or have built with this NetElixir Insights connection, and then using that AI tool to actually run your paid social?
Well, I think you sort of bring about a very powerful word, the black box concept.
It is.
So I think that's another rather radical description of how Google and even to an extent Meta, I think, are moving as well. But a little bit of a context. And this is just purely a lot of my overall beliefs and certain principles as well. So effectively, if you really go back again those times, 2004, when we had started NetElixir,
right.
At that point in time, it was a very open environment. If you remember Overture, you could actually see how much your competition is bidding per pay per click. So everything was very open and transparent. And it's my firm belief that transparency really was attractive to businesses. And that was, I think, one of the big reasons why companies like Google and later Meta, I think, launched their own model in 2007 or 8. Maybe that paid social really sort of happened.
Right.
They really kept up with that open model where everything was very transparent and you could really control the different elements which made your Google ad successful. So there was a very clear correlation of the transparency and the outcomes that you are able to derive. Now, fundamentally, in anticipation of the deprecation of the third-party cookies, and third-party cookies, as we know, Steve, literally are the foundational element of this entire digital marketing world.
Right.
In preparation of that, Google obviously launched Performance Max, as we know. Meta launched Advantage Plus and so on.
Right.
And understandably, in these models, they are extremely machine learning models. And what they are saying is, we will let AI do a lot of the work which was earlier done in a very controlling sense by the advertiser or the agency that was working with the advertiser and so on. Now, while on one hand, I understand purely, as you mentioned, Google is a for-profit company.
Right.
I understand as to what their motive behind doing this. They want to really preserve the money. And I mean, the lesser information and the controls are provided to the advertiser, the better it is in terms of, I think, just the if you don't know, the ignorance probably is to an extent proportional to inefficiency as well. So that's the challenge. But I can't really but help think of 2004 when everything was transparent, and the transparency, it essentially attracted all these customers. And I would probably not really have any qualms of mentioning, had it been a black box then, I don't think as many advertisers or marketers would really have joined that entire advertising or the paid media advertising ecosystem as we know of it today. So I think that's where we felt it is extremely important for us to try to, one, again, customer first. That was my best experience from the party gaming days. And the second part is try to really keep the entire space as transparent as possible. So we call it this entire concept, break the black box. And understandably, we were seeing firsthand a lot of people struggle with Performance Max campaigns. And it was troubling because in most cases, if you look at an average Shopify site that is advertising on Google and Meta and so on, typically about 30 to 40% of their traffic on site or on their direct website comes from the paid search, let us say, or Google ads, right? And Google ads plus Bing ads combined. And if you really add Meta, probably in many cases goes to up to about 50%. So you can't really let 50% of your entire business effectively be driven by a black box situation where you have very limited control. So we said that how can we really go about creating that control? So and this was way back, it didn't really start with that. In 2017, we created our own AI lab, which we call the Product Innovation Lab, back in the India Business Center in Hyderabad. And we tried to sort of start working on one very specific problem, Steve. And that's an important one part of the story, because we worked with a huge number of e-commerce companies, primarily in the areas of fashion, apparel, beauty, home goods, and so on. So these are fairly fast moving in the sense they're high frequency purchase categories. And specifically in the beauty category, we saw that only a small percentage of all the online shoppers effectively were repeat buyers. In many cases, we saw in the beauty segment almost like an 8%, 92%, like 8% of the customers keep on buying on a regular basis, are repeat buyers, and 92% just buy once. And it really sort of blew my mind as to how can you really scale a business profitably unless and until you really are able to have more repeat buyers who are more loyalists and building that community. So that was, I think, the entire inspiration of, can we really go about driving this mission of breaking the black box? And can we somehow really impact this 92% and 8%? So that was, I think, the entire idea behind this. So we started to build our own machine learning algorithms. And it just simplistically, it directly integrates with the Shopify backend. And what we are able to do is we are able to utilize this real-time data stream, and we are able to classify the shoppers into high-value, mid-value, and low-value shoppers. Again, I must say, Steve, the idea is very much driven from my bingo days or party gaming days, because it was almost like when you, let us say you are walking into a casino, in certain very sophisticated casinos, now probably every casino, back then as well, like if you went to Harrah's, they would know if you are a high roller or not. So the high-value customer exactly was that extension of the high rollers. And we figured that shouldn't it be a much better way and a much more profitable way of growing a business by if we could identify who these high rollers were or who these high value customers were. So that was, I think, the genesis of it all. I mean, we took about, I think, the 2.5 years to crack that formula, and we really built that machine learning model whereby we are able to identify from a real-time data source who are the high value, mid value, and low value customers. And we are assigning a high value customer score to every website. And the higher the high value customer score, the stronger is your website and the better is your customer mix of your website as such. Because that we directly connect to how defensible or how strong is your business in terms of the customer mix, and how less susceptible is it to just some competitive pressure where the customers can suddenly go and you suddenly find out yourself that I don't really have any loyal customers. Oh gosh. So that's I think what the initial genesis was. And then, as I mentioned, after Performance Max came, the part was we already had by that time cracked through these machine learning models these customers. We knew as to who these customers were. And Performance Max, for example, allows us to input audiences or first-party data audiences. And normally what probably every business or every advertiser advertising on Performance Max and Google does is they are just using the Google-generated audiences, or maybe they have their in-house audiences and they're this thing, and they're asking Google to, let us say, remarket to them or find lookalikes and so on.
Right.
Now, in our case, we are able to convert these algorithmically identified high-value audiences as Google signals or meta signals and input them and tell Google, almost like instruct Google to find lookalikes.
Right.
And that was just incredible to see the outcomes as such, because we were able to literally prompt Google, can you really find more lookalikes like this through Performance Max?
Yeah.
And as a result of which, we saw very clearly firsthand the customer mix improving constantly. when the customer mix improved, that means that these customers that we were able to acquire predictably were spending about 3 to 5 times more compared to the average customer. And as a result of which, the entire return on investment or the advertising spend went up 3 to 5 times as well. So, I mean, we came up with this slogan. I mean, wouldn't it be cool in this new world of Performance Max if you spend the same money but made a lot more revenue?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, like, is exactly what you're saying. And I find quite interesting is that, like, with NetElixir insights and just like your AI models, you're figuring out who the high value customers are. You're then pushing back to Google and saying, find more of these lookalikes. Not just because, once again, it's Google deciding typically, but if you're able to push back through APIs saying, no, find more of these because these are clearly, according to NetElixir, and connected to your Shopify store, that these are my high value customers. I need more like these people. Right. So that's the net new driving these high value lookalikes. But then how does the retention marketing fit into this mix? Because I mean, like you even said yourself, they're spending, or the frequency of these high value customers is 3 to 5 times more than a regular customer, let's say. And so knowing that, that's kind of a retention effort. And so are there campaigns, and does NetElixir Insights, does it allow for a retention marketing campaign to happen? And are you impacting that retention marketing? Because the thing was that we know they're high value, and in all likelihood, they're going to be buying again. I always think about this RFM modeling, this recency frequency monetization. Right. So let's chat about that.
Absolutely. That's a great question, Steve. So essentially, if you look at it, the first few algorithms that we built actually were very retention targeted.
Right.
In fact, once we really had these high value customer modeling, you can say the RFM was the core in the catalog marketing world.
Right.
Our algorithm, we were able to identify about 43 different variables that go into this because we were really looking at a live data stream and so on. And so there were things like, what is the latency between the first time, even before this customer became a customer, landed on your website, to the time that they made the first purchase?
Right.
What was the time gap between the first and the second purchase? What was the overall time the session time and so on? And using all of this, we sort of really built an algorithm. That was, I think, the algorithm part. Then we started to create about 2 or 3 other machine learning models, which were, again, very, very important as we really went into our development path of trying to really build, as you mentioned, the AI first digital agency. The first one was, can we predict at the individual customer level what is their propensity to churn?
Right.
Or which of your customers is likely to churn in the next 2 months? And that, again, purely if we didn't use machine learning, it was difficult to solve this problem just purely even by the classical predictive analytics and so on. And that's where machine learning really came as a big blessing in disguise, because we were able to really handle data at scale and really conduct a very high-end predictive analytics using this process. The second one was we were able to build another model which predicts as to what is their propensity to buy in the next 2 months. And lastly, or the third sub-machine learning model, we are able to predict how much are they likely to spend with your site in the next 12 months. Now, each one of this has a massive implication. The churn, understandably, because the interesting part that we observed, again, I would probably give an example of the fashion apparel category, Steve.
Okay.
Since inception, I've probably worked with close to about 250 to 300 companies only in the fashion and accessory space. And there were a couple of things which were very pronounced. The first one was you were spending so much time acquiring these customers, but not as much time focusing on retaining these customers or actively retaining this customer. So when we really tried to understand and analyze as to why so, we saw that there were no alerts which were accurate, which told when the customer might leave. Right? So in many cases, like for example, when you have the email marketing effort, etc., they have gotten smarter over time. Understandably, there are the Klaviyo's of the world, etc., which are much smarter. But I think the precise time when the customer may actually churn was still not really identified. So that was our first big contribution in terms of churn prediction, that we are able to predict what is that time when the customer will churn.
Right.
Accordingly, we are able to pass on that message and do the following. One, you can send out and activate an email campaign to offer the customer something.
Right.
We have some of the customers that are the clients that we work with in the fashion business. They are doing retargeting programs again, or remarketing or retargeting programs on Meta and Google, and targeting those customers as well. Again, a big retention play. And third and the last part is we were able to really influence the overall offers that are being offered to those customers at that right point in time. So it was literally a very personalized way of offering a specific promotion, knowing that this customer may churn in the next 1 week. So that we sort of really made that entire thing tremendously predictable. And more, that's the reason I think that the data becomes important for us, because the more data we have, the better it sort of works. And we were able to get to a very high level of precision and retention marketing through that, through these connections built with, whether it is the email marketing groups like the Sendlanes and the Clivios, and then we have obviously through the remarketing through Google and Meta as well. So those were some of the retention marketing efforts, which really became a lot more pinpointed and precise because of just that machine learning capabilities that we were able to build.
This is lovely. So walk us through what happens with a Shopify store then. You have so many customers, and I think your sweet spot more are people on Shopify Plus. They have product market fit, and
Right.
they're spending upwards of 50,000 probably or more in paid social. But walk us through what happens when someone is using the platform. Is there a private app, or is there a public app? And then do you connect all your paid social channels in through the Elixir? Just like to walk us through what happens.
Let's talk about, I think the focus is, let us say Google Ads, I think is
Right.
the easiest one. It's more of search. Social Meta, I think, is the specific platform that we are focusing on.
Right.
Because between Google and Meta, they have this big chunk, right? That's a significant volume driver.
Definitely.
So we found that there is one missing piece in all of this stuff. And that missing piece is something which I think you alluded to in the beginning. This concept that we called micro experiments. Now, micro experiments are something which had really, again, way back, and in a lot of this stuff that we are doing today, as amazing as it sounds, Steve, that it sort of traces back to those days in party gaming. The reason we were so successful and we literally built from a 0 to a 10 billion pound there was our ability of the team, which was dedicated to doing these smart experiments on Google Ads or whatever, Yahoo Ads then, and so on.
Right.
So we thought of building this capability as a standalone capability, which can be offered to a lot of Shopify companies. So let us say the Shopify company is working with Google and they are advertising, let us say, and spend about $50,000 to $100,000 every month on Google Ads. And they probably have an in-house team, maybe about 2 to 3 people who are managing these Google Ads. But how much time would they have in terms of conducting these experiments as a very rigorous discipline practice? Probably not as much. It's normally experimentation is an afterthought.
Right.
We believe in this new world of black boxes, as you have alluded to. I think experimentation is the only way that you can find out as to what works and what does not work.
Right.
And from that perspective, we effectively use these audiences, and that's where the AI part comes in. And we call it the AI-powered audiences. And we really build these micro experiments in Google Ads or Meta Ads and so on. And we have really modules built in within Elixir Insights. It can be very easily done. The entire workflow has been built out accordingly. For example, if you want to run a performance max campaign, there's a workflow which is built in. You add the audiences, create the experiments. You can create the experiments brand new, or you can normally, because people are a little averse to putting any extra spend still in doing experimentation, we said that you already are running this campaign, just give it 20% to the experiments and 80% can be the control campaign. And then you compare side by side how the performance is and what is the incremental gain. So that's how it works. And that really bridges the gap in this thing. So the idea of micro experiments, that's the first fundamental idea, that it is, we have really built those work streams or workflows. And all these workflows use our AI-powered audiences, which we are uncovering from your site. It is basically your data. Right. Your technology almost is what we are talking about. It's just a lot more precise and a lot more accurate. And then we do sort of just build those experiments and test them out. And we assign also experimentation consultants who work with your in-house team or if you are working with an agency, works with an agency and really plans out as to what those experiments are, how much budget, when do we activate, do we start the experiment on this date to this date, etc. It sort of down. So it is experimentation as a service, which we have really sort of introduced to the world. We unveiled this and we were seeing some tremendous response over the last couple of years. And we said that why not? If this is being so beneficial for our clients, why not really extend this as a module to all the Shopify businesses? So that's, I think, the first component. The second component, an important one as well, and pardon if I am getting too technical out here.
No, I love this.
We call it this principle of aggregation of marginal gains, Steve. Mm-hmm. Again, many of you would have probably read the book Atomic Habits.
Okay.
Right? The concept of Atomic Habits says you really do improve just 1% every day, and suddenly sort of just builds up. In a year, if you are able to improve 1% every day, you get to about 37 times improvement in a year.
All right.
So that's where we just slightly modified it. And we said that can we identify different places where there is a marginal improvement possible? Let us say a 1% improvement here, maybe a 2% here, maybe a 3% here. And when we are aggregating all of these improvements, suddenly the impact overall collective for the website becomes anywhere between 15 to 20% aggregated over a 6-month period. Now, 15 to 20% improvement, I'm not talking about only in terms of more revenue. I'm talking about more revenue without spending a single dime more. That started to have a big relevance, especially as the contribution margins gotten tighter and tighter, because the competition was really pushing your sort of price down. You couldn't raise the prices because of, maybe that's a different conversation, Steve, but Temu's and the Sheins. I mean, Temu pricing is difficult to match. But so I think there is a certain ceiling that is being sort of placed on effectively the prices that you can raise. Mm-hmm. Google Ads is becoming more and more expensive. Contribution margins are getting squeezed. So what should you do? You can use AI to identify and win better quality customers who spend 3 to 5 times as much with your website. And you do that by conducting AI-powered micro experiments that our team of consultants works with your in-house team or your agency to really help you set up.
Yeah.
So it's basically an incremental value add concept that we were able to.
It's amazing. And while you were chatting, I decided to just go through the workflow of going to the Shopify App Store and installing. And it's such a great workflow of being able to get the app, install the app, it syncs over, and then it's verifying all of my orders and just kind of just ingesting all the data that it needs. And then from there, the next steps are connecting your paid social and authorizing paid social accounts through LXR Insights. And then you're kind of off to the races. It seems like there's a lot of really good hand-holding that happens and self-serve kind of options available right from within the solution.
Right. Absolutely. So it becomes a pretty intuitive thing because we have seen it firsthand, Steve. I mean, with your deep experience in the Shopify environment, you probably would have a much more accurate number. But we believe that maybe 1 out of 10 Shopify businesses are really making a lot of money. So it's a tremendously profitable venture and so on.
For sure.
And we have seen across the board the contribution margins really getting hammered massively in the last 1 year. So what's the best way? I mean, the best way is improve your customer mix.
Right.
Is there a way to utilize AI to get the right type of customers, build a community of those customers, and just do more of it? And I think we have been able to find a way to really make AI work. There is a lot of AI talk around, but I think this probably is maybe the first instance of AI being applied to improve your bottom line or marketing bottom line.
Right.
And that's what we are very excited about.
Yeah, this is lovely. I did a little bit of research too before recording, and you have a lot of case studies on your website, and which proves that people had a current workflow, but they were unhappy. Exactly what you're talking about: margins being squeezed, blended ROAS, the C-suite. In most brands are really applying a lot of pressure to marketing people to being more granular and putting the right dollars into the right customers, and just it's a very interesting time to be alive right now and the competitiveness that's happening. And so clearly people have vetted and have chosen to work with NetElixir and definitely have decided to use LXR Insights. So I don't put you on the spot here, but I see lots on the website, but is there any particular brand that you could kind of call out and saying, hey, here's what their life was like before us, and then they found us, thank God. They implemented our solution with our help. And then here's the sort of success that they're now achieving because of what we've built.
I think there are quite a few. In fact, effectively, I can give you an example. This was end of last year. End of last year. So one of the big part is we have a very high touch approach in terms of meeting with the customers at their office and understanding the business and so on. It's more of a business consulting kind of a thing. So we were there in South Carolina to meet with one of our customers, essentially.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, North Carolina, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay.
To meet with our customer, Ames Walker. They are into the compression stocking industry, a highly competitive industry where, again, a lot of the imported products have really put a tremendous pressure on the margin and so on. So we have been working with Ames Walker for quite some time now. And effectively, when I went in, Ryan and Kaki, they are the husband-wife combination who run the company. They have been a Shopify store for quite some time now as well.
Okay. And
overall, I think the impact of this entire process is quite significant. I can actually even share with you a YouTube video that they actually sort of made for us.
Okay.
And effectively, that can be shared with your audience. But I think the fundamental part is, the percentage improvement was significant. It was upwards of 50% impact in terms of pre and post. But other than that, I think I wanted to talk more about what impact it has had on how they operate their company and how ambitious they can be as a business. Like this is like, I'm talking about the founders directly,
right?
Where they're already using this additional margins to invest and grow the business, grow the number of people that they are hiring or employing at their North Carolina offices. They are really being very adventurous in terms of using these additional margins to go ahead and invest in new product lines, potentially new business lines as well, and so on and so forth. So I think the entire concept is when we talk about contribution margin and just impact on the numbers, purely just numbers, I don't tell the entire story. Because most of these, let us say SMB segments or mid-sized businesses, they have a tremendous amount of ambition and they have a tremendous amount of aspiration, and the big aspiration is growth. And what we were able to see for the husband-wife combination, Ryan and Kaki of Ames Walker, was as to what happens when progressive businesses utilize this extra money that we were able to drive for their business to scale up, both in terms of headcount or the number of people who work for them, to new businesses that they launch. It just entirely changes the orbit in which the business really operates, which I am extremely proud of. I'm being very direct, Steve. It really gives me more joy than anything else, because in some small way, we have really been able to be a part of that entire journey of growth and aspiration. And we did it primarily because we took this entire problem of, let us stop losing these contribution margins, do something about it. We utilize LXR Insights AI to get those additional margins, get the right type of customers, and really fuel their ambitions, which always were theirs. And they wanted to do it, just we were able to really add in these extra contribution margins. But I can share with you the case study. It's there on YouTube. So
what I'll do is I'll make sure I add it to the show notes, because I think it is. I just looked it up myself for a moment here, and I see it, and it's exciting to be able to hear people's firsthand experiences to why they chose the platform. And I love how you positioned it that, hey, it's more than just a straight numbers kind of improvement and being more efficient with ad spend and all the great things the platform does, but it's just like they're becoming better operators because they're freeing up cash flow to reinvest back into the business to generate more business, right?
Absolutely.
It's so exciting that opportunity is available, as you said, in new product lines and whatnot. So it's pretty cool that this is kind of, I guess, the residual effect of if efficiencies in paid social equals, wow, there is opportunity out here. And now what are we going to do now that our net new customer cost per acquisition is reduced, which improves our margin, which then improves our cash flow. And then all of a sudden, well, now what are we doing with that money? And it's a it's a flywheel. I love it.
Exactly.
Well, this is great. And so, okay, so I guess my next steps today are, I've learned a lot. Thank you, number one, for coming on the show, because I think that the challenge is in the market is that a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. And they feel that they're putting a lot of trust in Google and Meta and and a lot of the younger audience investing in TikTok and in their paid ad kind of platforms there and their TikTok shop and the whole thing. And so the challenge is just relying solely on that. And you've clearly articulated the fact with your experience and the fact that, you have a great platform now that clearly is helping find these high value customers and creating incredible lookalike audiences that then is kind of pushing for, I just want to make sure that in my mind now that I have, I'm learning from you and I'm trying to articulate what your value prop is, because clearly this is what I see you doing really, really well in the Shopify ecosystem is efficiencies in ad spend, becoming better operators, and then just overall you and NetElixir as the company are really becoming partners with these brands is kind of what I take from this conversation.
I couldn't have really summed up better, Steve. The only additional
I'm hired.
I think my big message is, and this is not really a big idea, it's probably a very small idea, but maybe a big one.
Yeah.
Is I think it's important for you to not just focus on any customer when there is a way to utilize AI to really help you know as to who's the right customer to work with. Again, it comes with the overall brand customer fit, etc. for your business. And that's what we call the high value customer. So fundamentally, always really be cognizant of, is your customer mix strong enough that tomorrow there is a massive competitive onslaught, which you may not really have even foreseen? Will this customer may stick with your brand? That's an extremely important question to ask, right? So that's where the only addition I would have is, we have found out a way to improving your customer mix, thereby lending a significantly higher strength or solidity to your entire e-commerce business.
This is amazing. So let's suppose people that are listening right now, they're in the sweet spot of they have product market fit. They're spending, at least $50K a month in paid social right now. They're just not sure if it's efficiently spending because they feel that it's, as I recommended, it's a black box and they feel the margin squeeze and they're just, once again, these are for-profit companies. I think they're there to help. They're not completely evil, but I think using AI, we can find these high value customers and spend the money towards them because of the repeat purchase rate and all that kind of stuff. And so if someone's listening today and they're at 50K or more in monthly spend and, they're doing upwards of $10 million in revenue, what do you believe kind of the next steps are for these people that are likely in your sweet spot that can get the value out of your platform?
I'm sort of on a very old school, Steve, where I would always sort of recommend test a new technology or a solution.
Yeah.
Test drive it, because unless and until you test drive, you don't know whether it works for your business or not.
Right.
And then if it works, then just do more of it. Simple, right?
Right.
So we are happy to extend this offer to all of your customer base who fit in that criteria, which is like $50,000 or more on Google advertising spend or Google ad spend.
Right.
And a 2-month complimentary access to Alexa Insights.
Okay.
And I'll ping you the link. I'm pretty sure you'll share the link as well.
Yeah, I will.
With the group as well. So that can be a good way for you to test drive this technology and see if you are able to see that quantified benefit. And if you are seeing the quantified benefit, then go all in effectively with this.
Right. So that's what I'll do then. So I'll have ecommercefastlane.com/NetElixir. So that's NET and it's ELIXIR. It'll be in the show notes. That's going to redirect to a landing page that will get set up kind of post-production here. And that, I think the 2 months to kick the tires, to actually connect it. It's very clearly, as I was speaking with you, I said it was very easy to add to my store. It goes through the onboarding process of ingesting your current sales history and then giving access to your paid social accounts. And then from there, there's a few steps to decide on, well, what are we going to do with the campaigns? We can pause the current campaigns you have in PMax and then have you folks take over from there. And I know it looks like there's some access to a team too. Once I'm logged in now, I see there's access to your team members. So I think this is it's a good way of testing out the platform, because you don't know what you don't know, number one. And number two, like there is service available to kind of help you along to make the best decisions based on what your platform can do for them. So I think it's amazing we have this opportunity, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's just such a pleasure, Steve. I mean, you have really built literally an iconic overall podcast, and it's just, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Udayan. I really do appreciate you taking time to come on the show today. Thanks for sharing this opportunity. I think at the end of the day, people just, they feel that there's a lot of pressure right now to want to, be successful. And I think this hustle culture is hurting a lot of people, and but a lot of people are doing the same thing. And I think one thing that's unique about your platform is that you're getting out there, you're doing things different, but using through AI. And I just love the fact that we're just going to find more high value customers, and we're going to find more lookalikes like that, and we're going to work on the retention efforts and stuff like that, paired with all the great technology partners like the Klaviyo's of the world, so and the Tentivs and Postscripts, and so I think just the whole loyalty side of the business too is just great that you're a partner. And I just wanted to just call that out and appreciate that you put your flag in the Shopify sand too, and I think that's fantastic. So I wish you tremendous success and continue in your journey in e-commerce.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's an honor. Thank you.
All right. Have yourself a great afternoon. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.